The chamber of the Galactic Council pulsed with light from 1,000 worlds. Holograms of species ancient and powerful hovered above their seats, each murmuring in their own languages, their voices folding into a low, humming chorus of judgment. At the center stood Ambassador Rylan of Earth, the youngest delegate in the Council's history, his voice calm but tight with restrained urgency. The Terran colonies acted within disputed zones. No Council beacon marked the territory. "We followed standard protocol," he said, voice amplified by translation spheres. High Chancellor Suth of the Vereen Collective tilted his mantis-like head. "You advanced without permission." Ryland's hands clenched at his sides. "We requested arbitration 3 times. We received silence." There was a pause. The council chamber dimmed as the decree was finalized. With a blinding pulse of blue, the ruling was announced. "The species known as humanity is hereby sanctioned," Suth declared. "Effective immediately. All trade agreements nullified. All alliances revoked. All diplomatic privileges suspended. Terran ships are barred from council space." Gasps erupted, some of shock, some of quiet satisfaction. Ryland stood frozen. He had known the council was shifting, that certain factions fear humanity's rise. But this was exile. On the outer rim, human colonies received the order in bursts of distorted calms. Some wept. Others raged. Earth's government, once hopeful, went quiet. No one expected mercy, but the cold precision of the decision stung deeper than war. The official reason was expansion into contested zones, but the unspoken truth was clear to every Terran. Humanity had done what no species had done in generations. They had closed the technological gap. In less than 200 years, they'd gone from newcomers to near equals. They had built faster ships, smarter AIs, and spread farther in half the time. And they'd done it without asking permission. The Council felt threatened, so they reacted. Across human space, a shift began. The United Earth government recalled its diplomats. Colonial governors issued emergency unification orders. Independent fleets flew back to Sol for coordination. For the first time since the beginning of space colonization, humanity stood not as separate nations, but as one people under fire. They would not beg. They would not lash out blindly. They would remember. While the Council believed they had silenced a problem, what they had truly done was light a match in the heart of a storm. And humanity, scarred, underestimated, and burning with purpose, would show the galaxy what happens when you back them into a corner. The fury had not yet begun, but it was coming. In the months that followed the Council's decree, human space grew eerily quiet. Trade routes once bright with traffic flickered out. Research stations near the galactic border powered down their beacons. Colonies that once held bustling diplomatic ports closed their airlocks. Earth, once loud with signals and transmissions, turned inward. A silence fell, not of surrender, but of planning. The Council mistook the quiet for defeat. Some delegates mocked Terran pride behind closed doors, expecting collapse within cycles. They believed humanity's strength had always come from trade, from alliances, from borrowed influence. They never realized the truth. Humanity's greatest strength had always been adaptation. From the depths of Sol to the outermost mining stations, humans began to move with focus. The United Earth government restructured overnight into the Terran Accord, a unified civilian-military alliance with one purpose: survival through strength. Former rivals, nations, corporations, even French colonies, put aside differences and aligned under one banner. The shock of exile had forged unity in places politics never could. On Mars, shipyards expanded underground, hidden from telescopic eyes. On Titan, data cores once used for science were reprogrammed for black site aid development. Deep in the asteroid belt, forgotten mining operations became refit stations for stealth ships. Earth's surface, seemingly calm, buzzed with encrypted activity. Old grudges fell away. Veterans from colonial disputes trained new recruits together. Scientists who had once competed for funding now shared breakthroughs across secure channels. The Council had tried to fracture them. Instead, It had crystallized them. Media inside Terran space was strictly internal now. No messages left the Accords network. The last open broadcast, sent from Earth's orbital station, was brief and cold. "We will not forget. We will not be broken. This silence is by choice." Council observers tried to probe deeper but found their surveillance systems quietly failing. Listening satellites near Terran space reported static, then nothing. A scout vessel sent to investigate disappeared without trace. Officials dismissed it publicly as engine failure. Privately, they grew uneasy. Despite the outward calm, the Accord Strategic Division had already drafted contingency plans for every possible future: diplomacy, confrontation, or worse. But they were in no rush. Humanity had learned that haste invited mistakes, and mistakes in this new era could cost more than lives. They could cost opportunity. So Earth waited. It gathered. It evolved. The galaxy thought the storm had passed, but in truth, the storm had merely gone silent. And when it returned, it would be unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 5 years passed. The Galactic Council moved on, or so it believed. Trade flourished among member species, treaties were signed, and new sectors were explored. But a subtle rot had begun to spread beneath the polished surface. It started with delays. Starports, once flowing with human-engineered cargo, began reporting shortages. Terraforming equipment, precision med drones, and critical AI processors were in increasingly short supply. Repairs slowed. Industries lagged. Entire colonies began to feel the absence of something they once took for granted. At first, the Council dismissed the disruptions as a temporary shift. They turned to other species to fill the gap left by humanity's exile. But no replacements matched Terran efficiency. Human tech wasn't just fast, it was resilient, designed to function in extremes others couldn't even simulate. Their supply chains were messy, yes, but they were also fearless. Now without them, systems began to crack. On the fringe worlds, piracy surged. Attacks on freighters became alarmingly common. Council security forces responded, but something about these raiders was different. Their ships were crude but powerful, blending Council technology with designs no one had ever seen. Shields adapted in real time. Engines ran hotter, longer, faster. One captain, barely surviving a raid near the Helix cluster, swore the attackers used voice commands in an Earth dialect. But there was never proof. No survivors. No captured ships. Just scorched metal and unanswered questions. The whispers started soon after. Rumors spread in the underworld about Terran tech being sold off-market. Rogue inventors, black site traders, and defectors claimed to possess enhancements made by the Accord. Council officials dismissed it all as fear-mongering, but the whispers grew louder. Someone was supplying outlaw fleets with advanced tools even the core worlds struggled to match. A merchant guild on Vandrix Prime went bankrupt after switching from Terran medical AI to a Council-approved equivalent. The new systems failed to adapt during a pandemic. Thousands died. The scandal triggered protests, then riots. For the first time, common citizens began to question the official narrative. Had the Council made a mistake in exiling Earth? Inside Council chambers, unease crept through the ranks. Analysts warned that something larger might be brewing. Patterns were forming, supply lines weakening in zones nearest to former human colonies, pirate activity spiking along old Terran routes. But leadership dismissed it. Humanity had gone dark after all. What they didn't know was that the darkness wasn't absence, it was camouflage. And the first echoes of humanity's return had already begun to ripple through the stars. The first disappearance barely made headlines. Outpost N7, a small surveillance station near the edge of neutral space, stopped transmitting. The crew was minimal, just 8 technicians and a maintenance AI. It began with a defection. Captain Vesh Talaran of the Yulari Ascendancy, a minor Council species known for their neutrality, arrived unannounced in Council space. His ship limped into orbit above Ares Prime, half-scorched, half-cloaked, and barely functioning. The moment his identity was confirmed, He was rushed into isolation. He refused food, water, and medical treatment until one demand was met: a closed session with the Council High Command. When they finally allowed it, Vesh spoke only one sentence before collapsing. "They're back, and they're nothing like before." Once stabilized, Vesh explained that he had been assigned to monitor the neutral fringe, a quiet post often used for political exiles or career dead ends. Weeks into his deployment, his sensors picked up strange energy readings near a derelict asteroid field. When he moved closer, he saw them. Ships moving in complete silence, cloaked from standard detection, but still visible through brief flashes in the dust and debris. They were black, not painted, but constructed from some material that bent light around it. Their designs were Terran, but sharper, more refined, more dangerous. One ship drifted within 100 kilometers of his cruiser without triggering a single proximity alert. He powered down and watched in frozen silence. The fleet was enormous. Hundreds of vessels moved in perfect formation, without signal, without noise. Some bore strange symbols, fractured flags of old Terran nations fused with the insignia of the Terran Accord. Others were unmarked entirely. They looked like ghosts given metal and purpose. Vesh attempted to flee, but one of the black ships moved to intercept. It didn't fire. Instead, it transmitted a single packet of data, a string of historical records, old council votes, and video clips of Earth's ambassadors being dismissed and mocked. At the end of the file was a short phrase: "History is not forgotten." They let him go. The council reviewed Vesh's logs. Every detail checked out. The energy signatures matched those found near the disappearing ships. The flight patterns aligned with known Terran formations, except these were faster, more coordinated, and almost entirely automated. The realization hit hard. The Terran Accord had not only survived, it had evolved. Some called it impossible. Others called it inevitable. Council leadership tried to contain the panic, but the truth was already leaking through military networks. A force existed in the void, watching, measuring, waiting. And now the galaxy knew it had a name, even if none dared to speak it aloud. The Ghost Fleet was real, and it was preparing to move. The message arrived without warning. Across every council-linked communication network, from the core worlds to the distant colonies, screens and terminals flickered, frozen mid-transmission. A blank slate appeared, then a symbol. A stylized Earth wrapped in fractured star lines, the emblem of the Terran Accord. No encryption, no virus, just a signal no system could block. And then a face. Human, stern, not aggressive, but composed with a quiet weight that carried far more than threat. Her name was Admiral Leona Marek, former head of Earth's unified defense fleet. Behind her stood the black void of space, faint lights glimmering like stars. But those watching soon realized they were not stars. They were ships. "Members of the Galactic Council," she said, "this is not a declaration of war." Her voice was clear, without arrogance, without apology. "You exiled us. You stripped away our trade, our rights, and our voice. You did not offer arbitration. You offered silence." The council chamber erupted in motion as her words reached them, but no one could cut the signal. Not even the most secure systems could override it. "We did not lash out. We adapted. We unified. We remembered." She paused, letting the silence stretch. "For years we listened. We watched. And we learned what kind of power truly rules this galaxy. One that fears change, silences progress, and cloaks fear beneath the word order." She motioned, and behind her, a battleship the size of a council moon rotated slowly into view. Its hull shimmered with exotic alloys. Panels shifted like liquid armor, no visible engines, yet it moved with impossible precision. "This is not a show of dominance," Marek continued. "This is a warning. We do not seek conquest. We seek reform, and we will not ask twice." Simultaneously, Council military installations across 3 sectors reported power failures. Defense satellites deactivated. Surveillance systems flickered offline. Not a single weapon fired. Not a life was harmed, But every eye in the galaxy saw that it could have been otherwise. Myrick's final words were delivered with calm finality. "You cast us out. Now you will feel what that absence truly means. The future will not be built by fear. It will be shaped by those who endure it." And then the signal cut. No one slept that cycle. Council leaders convened emergency meetings. Some screened for retaliation. Others demanded negotiations. But no one could deny the truth. Humanity had returned, not with fire, but with control. And now, the balance of power had shifted. The first movement was subtle. At the edge of the Triarch system, a small, uninhabited moon, designated GL-17, shifted course. It had orbited the gas giant Varus for millennia, its path charted and unremarkable. But now, quietly and without natural cause, it began to drift. No seismic activity, no tidal shift. It simply moved. At first, Council astronomers assumed a miscalculation. Moons don't change orbit on their own. But when 3 observation posts reported the same data, the truth began to unfold. GL-17 was not a moon at all. It was a ship. Beneath layers of synthetic rock and dust was a hull of black alloy, silent and ancient in design. Deep scans revealed no life signs, no power emissions, and yet it was moving with purpose out of Varus orbit and directly into Council-controlled space. Council fleets scrambled. A task force of 7 ships was deployed to intercept, each armed with weapons capable of piercing planetary shields. They approached the moonship cautiously, hailed it, threatened it, warned it. There was no response. Then, as the first destroyer attempted to lock weapons, its targeting systems failed. Its engines shut down. Gravity reversed in a localized burst that folded the vessel in on itself without an explosion. No fire, no debris, just a twisted, compacted shell drifting into the void. The remaining ships disengaged immediately. News of the incident spread in hours. Civilian channels erupted with panic. Was it an ancient weapon? A rogue Gaia? The Council refused to issue a statement, but military analysts recognized the signature. It was Turan. GL-17 wasn't just a ship. It was a mobile base, wrapped in stealth and patience, waiting years, possibly decades, for activation. A relic of the Accord's silence. One of many, hidden in plain sight. That same day, 12 other moons across the galaxy began to move. Each one emerged from behind planetary rings, asteroid belts, or dormant orbital debris fields. None of them opened fire. None made contact. They simply moved into position above trade hubs, border checkpoints, and Council military strongholds. They were reminders, not of war, but of reach. The Accord had not only survived its exile, it had spread like roots beneath the galactic crust, unnoticed, unstoppable. Their silence had not been weakness. It had been placement. Now, across every system, from fringe outposts to capital worlds, the message was understood. Earth's fury wasn't coming. It was already here, and it had been waiting for this exact moment. The Council chamber had never been so silent. Representatives from every major species sat frozen in their seats, the room's usual hum of quiet conversation gone. Above them, holographic displays flickered with live footage from across the galaxy. 12 former moons now holding position over strategic locations, unmoving yet undeniable. No weapons drawn, no attacks launched, just presence. Presence backed by precision. Admiral Leona Myrick's final broadcast looped quietly on a side screen, her words echoing like prophecy. "We will not ask twice." The chairman of the council, a graying Trelawney named Vos Ranter, stood slowly. His voice, once the standard of diplomatic calm, now trembled beneath the weight of what he had seen. "They didn't need to fire," he said, more to himself than to the others. "They didn't conquer. They positioned." Whispers rose in the chamber, questions, doubts, but none spoke of retaliation anymore. The simulations were already running in secret military corps. Any direct assault on the Accords' positions would result in catastrophic loss within seconds. Even worse, their own systems had proven vulnerable. The moon ships had moved undetected for years. The Ghost Fleet remained untrackable, and Terran cyber warfare had quietly breached half the Council's classified networks without triggering a single alert. They were already inside the gates. The debate that followed was short. By a unanimous emergency vote, a formal message was drafted and transmitted on the same frequency the Accord had used. It contained a single sentence. We acknowledge the Accord as an independent equal and request immediate dialogue. On Earth, in a command center deep beneath the surface, Admiral Murek received the message. Around her, dozens of command staff stood in silence. A few smiled. Others looked only tired. Murek nodded once. Transmit response, she said. Begin contact protocols. No threats. No conditions. Just terms. And with that, the fury ended. No wars. No invasions. Just a reminder that exile had not broken humanity. It had refined them, forged them in silence. While the galaxy watched for violence, Earth had studied patience. While others built fleets, humans built shadows. And when the moment came, they didn't strike. They arrived. Across the stars, the phrase began to spread. Whispered first, then spoken boldly. They made the galaxy blink. And in that blink, humanity returned not as beggars, not as rebels, but as architects of a new future. The Council had gone too far, and humanity had gone farther.